Hey guys, Aaron CybertronVGC here, and today I'm back with another episode of Road to Ranked, where I climb the online VGC ladder in Pokemon Scarlet and Violet and provide live commentary as I go. In this video, I wanted to showcase the team that won the very first in-person regionals for Scarlet and Violet. This tournament took place over in Taiwan. It had over 100 players, and I'll link the results down in the description below. The winning team just featured some of the strongest Pokemon and strategies so far in Scarlet and Violet, including Specs Hydreigon, Focus Sash, Meowscarada with Trick Room, Population Bomb Wide Lens, Maushold, as well as Life Orb Armarouge paired with Indeedee. Now, since this was a in-person tournament and of regionals, I wanted to take a little bit of extra time to actually talk about the tournament, the metagame from it, obviously break down the team, and then also cover some weaknesses that I think the team might run into after having tried it out myself. And so everything is timestamped accordingly down in the description below, but as always, if you want to just skip to the battles, all of that good stuff is also down in the description below. So appreciate you all as always for watching. This team was built and piloted by a player called Tony, so huge congratulations to them for winning the tournament, and I think that this team will have drastic implications for the metagame. We've already featured some teams that look very similar to it, but I think the one that ended up winning is just very, very well composed. So thanks for watching. If you enjoy, it'd really mean a lot if you consider leaving a like or subscribing to the channel. It really helps me out a ton, and let's get started. So I wanted to just briefly cover the tournament that this team managed to win in. Like I mentioned, it was the first in-person regionals for Scarlet and Violet. It had over 100 players and took place in Taiwan, and it had 6 Swiss rounds as well as a top 16 single elimination bracket. One thing to call out is that it actually used the closed team list format rather than the open team list format. Recently, it was announced that tournaments this year in person are going to use open team sheets, and so keep that in mind as some of the strategies here might not be as effective in an open team sheet environment. The main thing I want to call out here is that the first place team, it has some similarities with a lot of the teams in top 8. In fact, it's very clear that the regional metagame here in Taiwan, like players really preferred using Meowscarada, Armarouge, Murkrow, as well as Hydreigon. One other interesting thing to note is that not a single Dondozo or Tatsugiri made it into the top 16, which honestly I was very surprised to see. But it's clear that, these Pokemon are incredibly popular, and that's part of the reason why I'm showcasing it, is because I think if you want to, win consistently on ladder or as you prepare for in-person tournaments, you're gonna have to know how to beat these kind of Pokemon, right? And especially like this team in particular, as well as the different variants that exist here within the top 8. And so I'm actually gonna break down some of the weaknesses that I think exist for a team composition like this after getting some practice with it. But yeah, overall, as you can see, top 8, a lot of similar strategies, but some cool things to call out, especially the Hariyama, the Tauros, as well as the Gudra and the Farigiraf. And at the end of the day, it's not too surprising to see so many of these, variants of this team pop up. It's just so strong, right? You have Tailwind, you're really proactive, you have some of the fastest Pokemon in the game with Meowscarada and Maushold. This is a really good offensive duo right now. And then you have, like, for example, on the winning team, the Trick Room combination as well. So yeah, that's it about the tournament. Let's actually talk about this team. So the first Pokemon on this team that I want to talk about is Murkrow. Now, Murkrow is a Pokemon that doesn't really need an introduction at this point in Series 1 VGC, but for those that are new, people are using this Pokemon because 1, it gets access to Prankster plus Tailwind, and in fact is the only Pokemon currently in the Pokedex that gets that combination. Even Honchkroat's evolution does not get Prankster, it loses it as it evolves. And so the idea is that this is just a very good Tailwind user, and because of dynamic speed as well, as soon as you Tailwind, your other Pokemon will capitalize off it immediately. And this team already uses some really fast Pokemon in Maushold and Meowscarada, and so with this and Tailwind, it's just really hard to essentially not get blown up by these Pokemon immediately. Murkrow is also used because it gets access to Haze, which is really valuable against setup-oriented strategies such as Dondozo and Tatsugiri. I talked about Maushold and Meowscarada a little bit, but basically the idea is that these are just 2 incredibly powerful Pokemon. This is a really good duel in the format right now, and I think something that every team really should be prepared for. Maushold is mainly designed here to deal massive amounts of damage with Population Bomb, as well as Wide Lens, which turns the accuracy of each Population Bomb hit from 90 to 99%, so the odds of hitting all 10 Population Bombs is over 90%. One thing I'll call out here on the Maushold is that it actually has Encore as well. And so Encore is really cool because often players will like protect against Maushold to try to not get blown up by it immediately. And you can just Encore them into protect and put them in a really tough position. It's also Ghost Terra, and so that gives you immunity to fighting type Pokemon and attacks, and it also gives you immunity to Fake Out, for example, which can be really valuable. Also, this can be pretty handy against opposing Mausholds where you can turn into Ghost Terra and suddenly you're immune to their Population Bombs. Follow Me is also just really nice for redirection. The cool thing about this Pokemon is it does so much damage, but it also doubles down as a support Pokemon with Encore and Follow Me. Hydreigon is the next Pokemon here. This is a Choice Specs variant. Now, this is interesting because, this team was used in a closed team sheet format, and I feel like for open team sheets, maybe with choice specs, it's a little bit easier to play around, but in a closed team sheet format, like, you don't know what item to expect, whether it be like Life Orb or a choice item or even like Assault Vest, for example. And so I was just thinking, how different would it be if this tournament was open versus closed team sheet? I don't know if I have a good answer. That's just kind of my hypothesis, but this is very standard, just max speed, max special attack, and you have Draco Meteor, Heat Wave, Dark Pulse, and Flash Cannon. Flash Cannon plus Steel Terra is the main combo to, talk about here, as this gives you an answer into fairy types like Sylveon, for example, and also Steel is just a great defensive Terra, giving you resistances to fairy and dragon, but you're still going to be weak to fighting, so keep that in mind. Meowscarada is the next Pokemon to talk about. Trick Room Focus Sash Meowscarada I feel like has really picked up in usage ever since Aaron Trailer finished second in the online Limitless tournament. And it's just a really good set. Like with Choice Band or Life Orb, Meowscarada can't really hang around for as long as you'd like it to. Focus Sash just ensures that you can stick around for a little bit longer, and Trick Room is really nice. Now, you might be wondering, why in the world would you ever use Trick Room given how fast this team is? But sometimes you'll run into even faster teams, for example, right? You might run into opposing Tailwind teams as well. So Trick Room gives you a nice answer where you don't necessarily have to always rely on your Murkrow. One of the downsides of Murkrow is that it doesn't actually do that much damage unless your opponent has like a lot of physical attackers that Foul Play can hit for hard. And so Murkrow often can feel like it's dead weight after a turn or two. And so this gives you more flexibility and not just committing to the Tailwind route. Finally, you've got Indeedee and Armarouge. This is a combination that's been very, very strong lately. The idea is that Armarouge is the only Pokemon in the Pokedex that gets Expanding Force, and so you can just spam Expanding Force and deal large amounts of damage. Armarouge is also just a really nice Pokemon with Flash Fire, giving it immunity to fire type attacks. The Grass Terra exists here so that if you go up against Amoonguss, for example, you can Grass Terra and not worry about spores nearly as much. And this is a fairly standard set. Sometimes you'll see Wide Guard over Protect, for example, but otherwise, Expanding Force, Armor Cannon, Trick Room are just so consistent. Indeedee here is also pretty classic, but the one thing to call out is that it has Dazzling Gleam rather than Psychic. This gives you better coverage into Dark-type Pokemon, especially things like Hydreigon, for example. Otherwise, Hydreigon would be kind of a nightmare for this duo to go up against. So, yeah, there's so many different ways that you can play with this team. I think, for example, like Indeedee Armarouge is a great combination. Murkrow plus any combination of Maushold, Hydreigon, and Meowscarada is good. If your opponent doesn't have that much great natural speed control, you can actually just lead things like Meowscarada, Maushold, Meowscarada, Hydreigon, Hydreigon, Maushold. Those are all really strong options as well. So yeah, I actually wanted to, take some time to also talk about weaknesses for this team, because this is just going to be everywhere, and obviously has already established itself in the meta. You can jump to the battles if you're interested in it, but I just wanted to take a few minutes to also highlight maybe how you can potentially beat combinations like this team. So for the weaknesses portion, I wanted to just quickly highlight some things that I struggled against when I use this team. For Indeedee and Armarouge, even though Indeedee has Dazzling Gleam, a well-played Dark-type Pokemon can still be incredibly difficult to beat. So I would say if you're playing against Indeedee, even if it's not this team, you should just expect Dazzling Gleam. Don't be caught off guard by it, because yeah, like if you are able to well position your Dark-type Pokemon, and especially use like a good defensive Terra to prevent yourself from just fainting to Dazzling Gleam, that can be a really big deal. Indeedee's special attack isn't really that great at the end of the day. There's no investment here other than 4 EVs, and so you can utilize that to your advantage. For Maushold, I would say there are a couple things that give this Pokemon a lot of trouble. The first is, for example, Pokemon that are immune to its attacks, so Ghost-type Pokemon like Golden Go or the Annihilate. I would also say that Maushold struggles against Pokemon that either have Rough Skin, i.e. Garchomp, as well as Rocky Helmet. Rocky Helmet Amoonguss is a really nice way to potentially deal with Maushold. Pokemon that just resist its attacks, so Steel/Rock-type Pokemon, or having a Terror on one of Pokemon that isn't that typing can be valuable. And ultimately, you can just take advantage of the fact that its only means of offense really is Population Bomb, right? And so Maushold is also really frail, and there are some Pokemon that just outspeed it and can KO it, like Dragapult and Meowscarada. And so I think there are plenty of answers for this Pokemon, and I think if you're trying to build the team in VGC, in Scarlet and Violet, you're going to need answers to this, because otherwise it's just way too strong with Population Bomb and can blow things up way too easily. For Hydreigon, I'd say because this is the Choice Specs variant, what I struggled against the most was basically like trying to blow something up, like for example, using Flash Cannon onto a Fairy-type Pokemon, but then the Fairy-type Pokemon just protects, and then suddenly I'm in a really bad position going into the subsequent turn. I think when you're fighting against Hydreigon in this format, there are a couple things you want to watch out for. The first is the item choice, right? Like, do you have Choice Specs, for example, Life Orb, Protect, Life Orb with Protect, Life Orb without Protect, Assault Vest, for example. And then the second thing to confirm is the Terra typing on it, because Hydreigon is one of the best Terra Pokemon in general. It just gets rid of some really valuable weaknesses. Steel and Poison feel really common right now. I've seen Fire as well, for example. And so If you can like try to figure out what kind of Hydreigon set your opponent has, that's great. And if you're playing against this team, use the fact that you know its choice specs to your advantage and try to get them to commit to an attack and then make defensive switch-ins afterwards. You can put Hydreigon in a really tricky position. For Meowscarada, I'd say the main thing is, I mean, this Pokemon will stick around because of Focus Sash. I mean, if you have priority, for example, that could be valuable. Bring it down to Sash and then KO it, or break its Sash with priority immediately and then knock it out. And I'd say the main thing when you're fighting against this is keep in mind Trick Room. Trick Room is what really, I think, makes it a game changer here. Also, good defensive Terras help, right? For example, like Golden Go with Steel can, remove the weakness to knock off and put it into a decent position. But you generally are going to know what this Pokemon's going to do when you fight against it. Don't get caught off guard by it, especially the Trick Room. And finally, for Murkrow, I would say a couple of things, right? Murkrow doesn't really do too much, especially if you don't have that many physical attackers. Like, the Foul Play is really good with physical attackers, and so, yeah, like, try to figure out, one, either KOing Murkrow before the physical attackers come out, or like prioritize using special attackers. And also just keep in mind that it only has one means of dealing damage after Tailwind is set up. Often this can be kind of a sitting duck where it sets up Tailwind and it just doesn't do very much for your opponent. So don't also always just aim to knock out Murkrow immediately. Look for positions where you can maybe intentionally leave it out on the field so that your opponent doesn't just get a free switch into one of their sweepers immediately. And so, yeah, those are just a couple of things that I've noted that I've struggled against when playing, with this team. I think the last overall big picture thing I'll call it is that you're relatively frail with the Maushold and the Meowscarada. It's very easy for Pokemon to faint very quickly with this team. There also is not, Protect on Murkrow, Hydreigon, and so you can take advantage of that as well. And ultimately, yeah, I mean, like, this is a team you should be well prepared to go up against. It is very strong, so even if you know what's coming your way, it doesn't necessarily guarantee a victory by any means, but hopefully this part was insightful. So I've been talking for so long, let's actually get into the battles, but I hope you found this section helpful. Okay, we've got Indeedee Armarouge, Maushold, and Meowscarada, so 4 of the 6 same Pokemon, Annihilate and Torkoal. So when you go up against, Pokemon or similar teams, you got to think about like what differentiates the teams, right? So my opponent has a potential Trick Room mode, which is scary. Maushold on both ends can deal large amounts of damage. If they want to go Trick Room, they could go something like Indeedee Armarouge lead. My way to beat that would be something like Maushold plus Hydreigon, because what we could do is just Population Bomb the Indeedee, Dark Pulse into the Armarouge. This lead is interesting, but it's scary because I expect Choice Scarf on Annihilate, and I expect Meowscarada to maybe make an appearance. So it's hard to say whether or not like they'll want to commit to Trick Room here, right? If they don't commit to Trick Room, basically like I could just go with Murkrow and set up Tailwind. I guess I should also consider my own Meowscarada, huh? I feel like the speed on this is really valuable. Actually, instead of Hydreigon, I think we should go... oh no, but the theory is that this would attack first, then Hydreigon would move. Okay, I'm going to go with Maushold, Hydreigon, Armarouge, and Meowscarada in the back. I'm just going to go pure offense here. We're not going to try to, set up with Indeedee or Murkrow. And the idea is to just maximize damage output. But basically, there's 2 potential approaches my opponent can take here. One is the Trick Room approach, in my opinion, with Indeedee, Armarouge, Torkoal in the back, and then the other is just going with the really fast Pokemon, something like Scarf Annihilate immediately, plus maybe Maushold. That is going to be Maushold and Armarouge. Okay. Now this is interesting, because, one, we have Steel Terra Hydreigon, so I could Steel Terra. The question is, like, do we play the Maushold Speed Tie War? Because, I'm like down a Population Bomb here. I could see them targeting Hydreigon. So I want to like Population Bomb Terra Steel. And then just Life Orb Dark Pulse. I guess it could be supportive Maushold, but if that's the case and they follow me, we would just get redirected and KO'd anyway. But yeah, it's interesting because I'm not sure what kind of Maushold set this is right now. So the theory, like, what's the worst case here? I guess if they went... They are indeed offensive Maushold. They win a speed tie. They beat my Maushold. I Dark Pulse KO their Maushold, and then Armarouge sets up Trick Room. That would be the absolute worst case for me right now. Okay, beautiful. They do end up Population Bombing, but into Hydreigon. So that's exactly where the Steel Terra comes in hand. I could have reversed my damage here. For example, Population Bomb onto Maushold instead. But the idea is that I think their Maushold is such a big offensive threat to my team. I really want that out of the way. So let's see how many hits we get. 1, 2, 3, 4. Citrus Berry here would actually ruin my setup, so that would be bad. 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, excellent. Get a crit on the last one, but I think we would have done enough to KO, so nice. And this is where the Steel Terra on Hydreigon is such a big deal, so this is one of the reasons why Hydreigon is just an excellent Pokemon, right? Defensive Terras allow so much flexibility for it, but Maushold actually impressively survives the Dark Pulse. Okay, that's a little bit less than ideal here. Annihilate comes out. I expect it to be Choice Scarf, so they might just close combat into this, and then just Population Bomb again. But Meowscarada is going to be a really great switch in, because I can just use that to KO the Maushold before Maushold gets an attack off. That's why I wanted it in the back. Close combat is going to come out. I mean, I could switch here. The other thing is I could just... Well, I was going to say go for a speed type, but no, I don't think I should. I think the best play here is to actually protect and sacrifice Hydreigon. I honestly was not expecting Maushold to survive that Dark Pulse. If I had known that that was going to be the case, Draco Meteor definitely would have been the play, but that's okay. Good to get that experience. So Maushold's going to protect here. Yep, they're just going to bomb again. Notably, though, you'll see that the Maushold is moving before the Annihilate, so it's not Choice Scarf Annihilate, which is something I was worried about. So that's good to confirm. They haven't Terra'd yet either, so it could be Bulk Up Annihilate. And if it is, though, I can actually just Encore them. Bulk Up would actually be the best move to see right now. Okay. Because now what we do is just bring out Meowscarada. Yeah, this is going to be so good for us. We bring out Meowscarada, and then we just Encore the Annihilate while going for knockoff onto Maushold. Knockoff is good. I mean, it covers for switch out options. Maybe their last Pokemon's also Meowscarada. That could be a little bit scary, actually, because then they could bring out their Meowscarada and then just KO Maushold while Annihilate protects here. So Annihilate should protect. We'll see if they go for it. The other nice thing, though, is by having this Flower Trick on the Meowscarada, I get to, always get critical hits, and so we can ignore... Oh! It's actually going to be a Protect from Maushold. Okay, cool. That works. And now we're going to highlight the strength of Encore on Maushold. That is just going to lock the Annihilate into Bulk Up for the next couple of turns. And I don't really care about the defense boosts because I can always crit with Knockoff, and my final Pokemon is Armarouge. So this game is showing the flexibility of Maushold as a Pokemon. Like, the fact that you can use Population Bomb and have this super strong attack, but also have good support in Follow Me and Encore is amazing. So there's 2 turns of Encore left. The thing is, I am a little bit worried about their last Pokemon being Meowscarada. I think if it's Indeedee or... if it's Meowscarada, though, what would I do against it? Follow Me... Basically, because, I want to switch out right now into Armarouge, right? Which puts on pressure against this. Oh, I could Trick Room. That seems kind of wild, though. I'll just go for Knockoff here. I think the thing is even... Oh, they're going to switch. Okay. Maybe into their... Well, we'll see what it is. Meowscarada is the biggest threat, but it's actually Torkoal. I think given that their last one is Torkoal, this game is... I wouldn't say 100% over, but we should be in very good shape now. And the reason for that is because, well, 1, Armarouge in itself, matches up decently into Torkoal. But 2, the Annihilate can't protect. So next turn I can just double up into that slot. This is also why, it's just good to go for Knockoff, because it covers for switch out options. So yeah, Annihilate Bulk Ups again. But the thing is, now I can just double up onto that slot for a guaranteed KO. I could see Annihilate maybe switching out into Maushold as well, but if that is the case, we would just KO the Maushold, and then Armarouge's Expanding Force would get redirected. So I am just going to Flower Trick and Expanding Force here. So what's their best play here? It's probably just stay in, but given that Torkoal also no longer has the choice specs, the damage output from that is not looking too strong. You can Earth Power. Okay, they're just going to stay in. That's fine. Wow, Flower Trick does so much. I actually could have gone Flower Trick then and then just Expanding Force onto the Torkoal slot, but I figured I had a guaranteed KO. I knew Encore was gonna end after this turn, and like I have Maushold as my final Pokemon, and I still have the Focus Sash intact on the Meowscarada. So basically, the logic is okay. Even if Torkoal gets a huge attack off here, it doesn't really matter because like Meowscarada will just outspeed their Maushold, and then my Maushold can come out and just Population Bomb. I think the only thing to worry about, a burn here is actually the main thing to worry about. I think that would put me in a trickier spot for sure. Okay, no burn. Nice. No, so we should have the game locked up. Yeah, this is the scenario. Like, that was probably the worst case scenario other than a burn coming out, and I'm still in totally fine shape, right? Because I can just Expanding Force into the Torkoal now. And just go for Flower Trick onto Maushold. I guess the only question is whether or not Life Orb Expanding Force actually guarantees the KO. But we know Torkoal is Choice Spec, so the thing is I can actually double up into it, but I don't think it's... Like, we'll just force the Maushold to protect here. I don't think I need to make any aggressive predictions right now. And this is Life Orb single target Expanding Force. So, I don't know. I would expect to get the KO, but we'll see. Maybe they have a lot of special defense investment. Yeah, perfect. And so it was really critical for us to have Meowscarada in the back. I think at first I was thinking about bringing Indeedee, but if you want to beat Maushold, it's interesting because Maushold was really good for us in this game, but we also needed to beat their Maushold. There's a couple of answers to it, right? The first one is a defensive Terra that makes Population Bomb not nearly as strong, and so Terraing Hydreigon on turn 1 gave us a big advantage immediately. And also, did my opponent Terra in that game? They didn't, right? Armarouge didn't Terra on turn 1. Annihilate never Terra'd, and then Torkoal's Fire Terra, so probably, like, I'm guessing it was just, normal Terra Maushold and then Fire Terra Torkoal, so they probably felt like they couldn't really even have an opportunity to Terra, but yeah, we'll take it. The point I was going to make, though, is if you want to beat Maushold, I think like having something like an Outspeed it and KO it before it can move is a really big deal, whether that be something that's naturally faster like Meowscarada or something like Tailwind plus a strong attacker, or you set up Trick Room and then try to, blow it up. Trick Room might be a little bit harder, though, because then Maushold often just gets a Population Bomb off. And then the second is like Defensive Terra, Steel, and Ghost Terras are really valuable into Maushold specifically. And then the Encore just was huge for us in this game because it essentially completely denied Annihilate from doing anything in this battle. And that felt like the main Pokemon my opponent wanted to play towards after the beginning of the game. So, yeah. Wow, this is a really cool team. They've got Volcarona, Indeedee, Male, Drifloon, Tyranitar, Meowscarada, and Camerupt. I have not fought against a single Camerupt so far, and so I'm very excited to see what that has to offer, but also Indeedee plus Drifloon. Very fun. I love this team. Like, I'm just eager to see how it operates. I think it's smartly constructed because like Maushold actually struggles a lot here. For example, Flame Body Volcarona means every time a Population Bomb hits, it checks for a potential burn. And so, the likelihood of Maushold getting burnt into the Volcarona is very high. They also have Meowscarada on their side, which can just outspeed and KO us. And then Indeedee plus Drifloon is another interesting option. Like, we're probably not bringing Maushold in this battle, right? They have 2 Rock types and a Ghost type, and Volcarona and Meowscarada. So, that's really cool. Huh. I feel like I need to use... It's interesting because Armarouge feels strong here, but then like Tyranitar and Camerupt both are really scary, honestly. My best offense against that is probably my Meowscarada. Maybe I do just go with Tailwind in this game with Murkrow. Like, I'm thinking Meowscarada, Armarouge, Hydreigon, Murkrow. I'm not sure in what order, though. Hydreigon feels pretty consistent as a lead here, so I'll go with Meowscarada and Armarouge in the back. I don't feel comfortable enough going Trick Room in this game because of Tyranitar and Camerupt. So, I'm just really excited to see their team. This is a really cool team. I think, like, Camerupt is obviously the Pokemon I'm most curious about. But really just everything across the board here intrigues me. Okay, so it's going to be Indeedee and Drifloon. That's okay. I mean... Is it? I have dual darks here, so it feels like it's okay, but I don't really know how players are utilizing Drifloon in this generation. Drifloon was pretty common in 2017. Shoma Honami, the 2015 World Champion, like, was one of the best players with it. I think Sage and Park had also used it. And then I, like, drew inspiration from them. I actually won a regional championship with Drifloon. And the idea was, like, you have Will-O-Wisp, Shadow Ball. Destiny Bond's a really cool move you can utilize on it as well. So, like, I could just Tailwind. They've got the Unburden boost now. I don't know. I mean, Tailwind Dark Pulse doesn't seem terrible, but I guess the question is, do I even need to outspeed you on turn 1? Because what is this duo going to really do against me? In fact, if anything, I'm actually worried about this thing Trick Rooming on me. So I'm down to just double up onto it. Foul Play Dark Pulse maybe, turn 1. Oh boy. I think we're about to get rocked. Oh, okay, it's normal. Wow. Okay, so I expect Hyper Voice for sure. Okay, Icy Wind into Hyper Voice. My Hydreigon is probably fainting here. I did not see that coming at all. That's really cool. Huh. Amazing. Really, really fun duo. My counterplay to that would have been going for Terra on Hydreigon on turn 1, which admittedly would have put us in a really solid spot, but I was never really going to consider normal Terra Hyper Voice. I should have, right? It's not... Is it that crazy? Like, I don't think so. Ah, okay, that makes this game very interesting. Yeah, this is tough. I mean, this Hyper Voice is no joke. So I can bring out Meowscarada. If I were them here, what would I do? Because obviously I can Tailwind. I don't know. I would expect them to protect here and then Tailwind on their side. That's what I would do if I were in their position, I think. Or they could protect an Icy Wind. That's another possibility as well. The problem is Knockoff's just not even that good in a Drifbloom because of the Psychic Seed consumption. Alright? I guess I could go Trick Room here. It's a little bit greedy, but maybe I need to play greedy because I'm behind right now. Alright, this seems pretty crazy. I went for Taunt plus Trick Room. They did not protect the NDD, which is not a good sign for me. I mean, I would just lose to Icy Wind and Hyper Voice right now. That is what they went for. Wow. Yeah, I'm surprised the NDD didn't protect there, but maybe it's Choice Specs. Really cool, though. I don't mind losing to this duel. Like, basically this turn I could have just gone for Tailwind and then, like, Knockoff or Flower Trick onto NDD. My play was definitely not the best one, but I was trying to figure out, like, is there a play that covers for every option? Because I was expecting NDD to protect there, and then the Drifbloom to just go for a, like, Icy Wind or a Tailwind. And I was like, okay, but yeah, my play there was never really that strong. The best way to have beaten this was just tearing Hydreigon on turn 1. So, yeah. That is an amazing duel, though. Like, I think one of the fun things about Scarlet and Violet, especially with Terra, is being able to utilize Pokemon in ways that you're not used to seeing. And, you know, NDD, when it was used in Sword and Shield, NDD Male, it was almost always Imprison, Trick Room, Expanding Force, and a 4th move. And it's got, you know, solid offensive stats, but you just wouldn't really see it as like a primary sweeper. So it's really cool to see the way it was utilized here. I just have not fought against that duel at all so far in Scarlet and Violet, so like a loss like that is honestly very, very good in the sense of learning what that can do. I wish we could have seen the rest of the team, because I think that whole team is awesome. Like, I would have loved to see what they had in the back, but I think that team is a great example of a pretty innovative way, in my opinion, to beat like Maushold stuff. Because, yeah, like, I just didn't feel comfortable bringing Maushold in that matchup at all. They had Drifbloom, they had Camerupt, they had Tyranitar, they had Volcarona, and Meowscarada. Like, none of what I had felt good. The only thing that Maushold would have felt strong into was the NDD, but everything else was, like, super, super anti-Maushold. And so, yeah, I mean, like, after losing against it, like, I honestly want to try it out myself. My opponent made it look really good. I essentially lost the game in 2 turns, right? So, you're talking about adjustments, yeah, Steel Terra Hydreigon on turn 1 would have solved a lot of problems. We just Terra, Draco Meteor, KO immediately, and then my Murkrow can set up Tailwind, and then we've got the Armarouge and the Meowscarada for fairly good damage output in the end game. So a defensive Terra would have solved everything there. I just honestly did not consider the possibility of Hyper Voice from normal Terra NDD. So yeah, best of one in this format can be really volatile, but now that we've gone up against it, if I ever see that duel again, I at least will always expect, okay, the NDD should be offensive here and can deal massive amounts of damage. So very, very cool team construction there by my opponent. Okay, this team feels so much like a 2014 team, very similar to the team Sejong Park used to win Worlds in many ways. Mainly, actually, it's just the Gothitelle and the Gyarados combination there that reminds me of it. They've got Talonflame, Hydreigon, Amoonguss, and Dragapult. I actually lost to a Dragapult while practicing with this team. It was like Dragon Terra, Dragon Darts, and it kind of just blew everything up. I want to be very careful about that. Because Dragapult's also excellent with the Maushold here. I also have to worry about Rocky Helmet Amoonguss. So I'm interested in leading... Like, I think Hydreigon is really strong here, especially because it could defensively Terra immediately. Murkrow has Taunt, which is always good here. In the back. I mean, if they didn't have Amoonguss, I would consider NDD. Maybe I still do consider NDD plus Armarouge. I don't know, I kind of want to give that a shot here. Amoonguss in the back. Sorry, not Amoonguss. Meowscarada in the back, and then as the final one, probably Hydreigon. Because we can Grass Terra with this to avoid Spore. Yeah. Okay. Let's go for Hydreigon. So basically, what are we looking for in this battle? Number one, I think that they have... I mean, they have a lot of fast Pokemon, right? So that's why I'm like inclined to think about the Trick Room option with the NDD. They're going to go Dragapult and... Sorry, Trick Room option with the Armarouge. I think this is a really favorable lead to run into. It's basically a free Trick Room guaranteed right now. And they have 2 ultra-fast Pokemon out on the field. So I'm just going to follow me plus Trick Room on turn 1. I don't want to risk, like, Choice Spec Shadow Ball Dragapult, for example. And trading Entity to get Trick Room up on turn 1 is, like, the best possible thing we could ask for here. Talonflame switches. Might be Amoonguss coming in. It's Hydreigon. Okay, that makes sense. But this is where it's like we have Dazzling Gleam on the NDD as well. So Dazzling plus Expanding Force is looking so strong going into turn 2. But we'll see if they maybe can like potentially get a one-hit knockout onto the NDD. Nice U-turn. Okay, that was the best possible way for my opponent to get out of what I think was a terrible situation on turn 1. Because now if Amoonguss comes out, this game becomes a lot more interesting. So let's see if Amoonguss is their final one. If so, that was excellently piloted on turn 1 in my opinion. I think if they did not bring Amoonguss though, they're going to struggle. And Talonflame is coming back out, and I think that puts them in a really tough spot. Because now I get Trick Room up. And like I mentioned, Entity has the Dazzling Gleam here. So we can just Dazzling Gleam. And I'm actually just going to Armor Cannon into Hydreigon. It covers for most of Hydreigon's Terra types. Steel, Poison are fairly common. And I'm not actually confident Dazzling Gleam even KOs Hydreigon here, and that's the biggest threat. Like, what is Talonflame going to do into NDD and Armarouge? Brave Bird, sure, that's fine. But I'm very glad that the decision to go with the Trick Room option here has paid off, it looks like, so far. Because, yeah, the problem with Talonflame and Dragapult is, like, yeah, I can set up Tailwind, but then your Dragapult just outspeeds me, and that's really bad. Because, like, Talonflame can also just set up their Tailwind. Armor Cannon did so much there, though. 50% to Hydreigon. Okay. Now we'll be able to finish it off with Dazzling Gleam. Excellent. Break Scale Wings on Talonflame. Not that that's really super relevant right now. It's not like they're going to really want to click Tailwind. Yeah. They go for Will-O-Wisp. Okay. This last one was also interesting, by the way, because Psychic Terrain was up, so they actually couldn't even Brave Bird. Because, like, the Brave Bird would be priority right now, and Psychic Terrain blocks the priority attack. So their only option there. Oh, they did have Amoonguss. That's so interesting. I'm very surprised, especially given that you just went for Will-O-Wisp as well. Like, I think if Talonflame had pivoted out into Amoonguss, then you could like at least pressure Spore onto the NDD and then Dark Pulse onto Armarouge. So I think they brought like the right Pokemon here, but the sequencing was like not perfect. And now it makes it a lot tougher for them. Because I can just follow me into Expanding Force. Right? Like this turn, I don't even need to go for Terra. No need to like give any more extra information. So Amoonguss is going to go for a defensive Terra, it looks like. That would make sense. Get rid of the poison, maybe turn into water, fire. Grass Amoonguss. Okay. That is interesting. Almost makes me think if they're like potentially offensive. Talonflame protects, that's fine. Like the reality is Expanding Force just clears their team at this point, and I can just Terra Grass next turn to handle everything. That's why I wanted to prioritize KOing Hydreigon as much as I did. Clear Smog here. That's not even going to get the KO. Yeah. They also, I think, put themselves in an even trickier position by going for Will-O-Wisp previously with Talonflame. But I think this is exactly why like Trick Room can be a really strong option, right? There's a lot of like fast-paced hyper offense right now, and those kind of teams just get destroyed if Trick Room goes up. Yeah, and like we haven't even used Grass Terra on Armarouge yet, but that's exactly why Grass Terra exists on a Pokemon like this, so that even if like Indeedee were no longer around, I wouldn't have to rely on protection from it. I could just Terra Grass and then yeah, just keep clicking Expanding Force. So yeah, we can just follow me here and Expanding Force again. I don't even feel the need to commit my Terra still. Like might as well conserve more information if it's not necessary to reveal it. So Mungus protects. Okay, Talonflame gets a double protect, sure. But because I have this Grass Terra up my sleeve, like, none of this really matters, I think. But they're going for exactly what they need to give themselves a chance, so, you know, kudos for identifying it. I'm just curious about the theory behind Grass Terra Mungus, because it's like you still have your Flying and Fire weaknesses, but I guess getting rid of Poison in itself is fairly valuable because Psychic Spam is really strong. Okay. Last turn of Trick Room. Last turn of Psychic Terrain. I mean, I'm just going to go for Follow Me Expanding Force again. Yeah, they're just going to try to get another Protect off with the Mungus. That's going to fail. Talonflame is also going to fail. Yeah. I felt like this game was over as soon as Hydreigon didn't protect and we got the KO and Amoonguss didn't come out. But I think it would have played out completely differently, especially because my opponent's turn 1 play was really excellent in my opinion. So if Amoonguss had come out rather than the Talonflame, it would have been a lot trickier. Because then it can just start putting on pressure with Spore. And Indeedee was kind of necessary for the Dazzling Gleam into Hydreigon. I think my best guess is my opponent just wasn't expecting Dazzling Gleam from Indeedee, which is totally fair. You expect maybe a Psychic type attack inside on it, Follow Me, Helping Hand, Protect. You know, basically our moveset, but no Dazzling Gleam. And if that's the case, you're like, oh, well, Hydreigon's really well positioned right now. I don't really have to worry about damage output. So I imagine it was the Dazzling Gleam that caught them off guard. But yeah, I still think Amoonguss coming out after your opponent has set up Trick Room is always fairly valuable. So we can just bring out Meowscarada now. But this is exactly what Indeedee and Dragapult can do. It's a very, very powerful combination. And that's why Dazzling Gleam is also really nice, because it covers for those Dark-type attacks or Pokemon that are immune to the Expanding Force. We just knock off now and Expanding Force. Knockoff should just get a one-hit KO onto the Dragapult. Curious about the item here. Like, I normally expect Choice Band on this Pokemon or Choice Specs. So Knockoff will allow us to see. What was it? Oh, does it not show me? Oh, no, it does. Okay, that's what I thought. It is Choice Band. Choice Band Dragapult, by the way, really cool because of that U-turn. That's very strong into a format where Meowscarada is really common. Now, what's interesting is that, like, U-turn is picking up on... Or not U-turn, sorry. Like, Focus Sash feels like it's picking up as an item on Meowscarada, so it makes the U-turn maybe not as strong as it was previously before people were using Focus Sash on Meowscarada, but it's still a really strong option. And so, yeah, I think Armarouge was obviously the MVP of this game, but you could actually make an argument for Indeedee being the MVP, being able to Dazzling Gleam to clear Hydreigon, because as soon as Hydreigon went down, there was no way to handle the Armarouge. Expanding Force just kind of destroyed everything else. So, yeah, that's exactly why this duo can be a major, major threat in this format. Okay, this is a fun one. It's kind of a sand-oriented team. I had just featured Lycanroc plus Tyranitar, but Houndstone feels like it deserves some love. This actually reminds me very much of the Tyranitar, Houndstone, Garganacl team I'd featured before the Series 1 rules were announced, but this one has a lot more offense with the Frigoraph as well as the Meowscarada. I think these teams, by the way, are doing a great job of showing how you can give Maushold a tough time, because I don't feel comfortable bringing Maushold into a lot of these matchups, right? Like, this one has a Tyranitar, the Meowscarada, the Houndstone, and the Garganacl. It's very good anti-Maushold stuff, so we're probably going to drop that from this. But once again, like, that's where the rest of the team comes in, right? It's like, oh, you know, Maushold doesn't love going up against Ghost-type Pokemon. You know what does? Hydreigon. And Rock-type Pokemon, we've got Meowscarada. I don't know what to lead here, though, honestly. I'm thinking maybe Murkrow, Meowscarada, Hydreigon, and Armarouge. Like, I don't think Psychic Spam is very good here. They've got three Darks. with the Murkrow, the Tyranitar, and the Meowscarada. So I can't spam Expanding Force very easily. So yeah, like basically I'm dropping Maushold here because I don't think it has that much good offense in this matchup given how many resistances and immunities exist. I'm dropping Inity because like I don't think the redirection really helps me much, and Inity's offensive or defensive capabilities aren't really that great either. Okay, I think this is totally fine for us. I want to deny Trick Room ideally, so I'm down to just Foul Play Knockoff turn 1, I think. This could protect, I suppose. It could Terra as well. Defensive Terra on Fergaraf here would be very interesting in my opinion. I'm not that worried about Garganacl. We can just crit through it with Flower Trick, and I can haze away its boost as well. So Murkrow's very good into that, in my opinion. To me, this lead like feels like it's Screaming Trick Room, and so I just want to like try to prevent it from going up if I can. Garganacl at best can Iron Defense, Body Press, or Salt Cure here. It is going to be a Terra, but I would expect Garganacl to be the one Terraing here. But like I said, Fergaraf Terra here would be amazing to see from their end. But yeah, it's going to be Ghost. Works for me. I can just knock off for super effective damage now, which is also pretty cool. Like Haze knockoff next turn is looking pretty sweet onto that slot. No Protect, excellent. And knockoff actually just gets the 1-hit KO. Oof. That's so strong. Okay, now Foul Play will even deal some super effective damage, and it's Safety Goggles, which makes sense. Good anti-Amoonguss. That actually did a lot of damage. Jeez. They're just going to Body Press. Okay. Smart to Body Press rather than trying to go for something like an Iron Defense immediately. I get a crit, but that definitely did not matter. But this is, you can just see the value of Focus Sash Meowscarada. It's such a good item on this Pokemon. And now I'm in Overgrow range as well, which is pretty cool. Like, let's say whatever came in can't take over. I mean, it's probably not worth it to just try to get something, get a 1-hit KO onto something, but it's a fun idea. It's gonna be Tyranitar, okay. I don't even really need to Tailwind here. I could Taunt. I've got Hydreigon, Armarouge in the back. Tyranitar is kind of annoying, but I also kind of expect it to protect here, and then Hydreigon can just Terra Steel into it. Admittedly, my Tyranitar matchup here is honestly not amazing, which is interesting. I don't need a Tailwind here. Yeah, I'm down to just Foul Play, honestly, and then just Flower Trick. Yeah, they protect, but that's fine. Like, I'm down to cover for it being like Assault Vest Tyranitar, and if they don't protect, we win the game immediately, and even with that, it's still fine. I think the reality is if I wanted to truly get value out of Meowscarada, I need to switch it out and then, like, conserve it all the way until Sandstorm is over, and that's going to take a long time. And they go for Salt Cure. Works for me. Okay. The problem, though, is that Armarouge is actually completely useless into Tyranitar, right? But I've got Choice Specs Flash Cannon into Tyranitar. I'm just worried about it having, like, a super effective attack in return. Like, I realize now I did not bring as many Tyranitar answers as I maybe should have. That is fairly scary, honestly. Another Foul Play should just KO Garganacl, though, and then we'll get Specs Flash Cannon into Tyranitar. I'm just worried, like I said, about, I don't know, like Weakness Policy, for example. I also notably have not set up Tailwind in this game, and if, like, their last Pokemon is actually the... I mean, it could be Meowscarada or the Houndstone. Oh, late game Houndstone looks kind of scary here, too, no? What I want to do is just Foul Play here. Terra, Steel, Flash Cannon. But I'm not sure that's enough to KO Tyranitar, to be honest. I guess, like, if I had pushed the Tempo and read into the Protect and KO'd the Garganacl, then Hydreigon, then, like, this next turn I could just, like, Tailwind and try to knock whatever is coming out. But my decision... I don't know. Armarouge, Indeedee, and... like, I didn't really have any good answer into the Tyranitar with the Pokemon I didn't bring, right? Specs Flash Cannon, it's good damage, does around 80% or so. Okay, no Weakness Policy, though. That's the main thing I was worried about. And Foul Play KOs, okay. I still feel pretty good about the positioning then, all things considered. But, like, yeah, if it's Houndstone on their end, this becomes really interesting. Okay, they Brick Break. That does so much damage, but it's not enough for a KO, and it's Life Orb Tyranitar as well. Okay. Well, now I can Tailwind. mean, it depends on what their last one is, right? Like, Meowth Grotto is one of my expectations. It could be Houndstone as well. It is Houndstone. Okay. I think I'm down to just Tailwind Flash Cannon here. I mean, I should also consider switching Hydreigon out, right? So I could conserve Dark Pulse, maybe. Question is, what, like, this is not in KO range from Life Orb. It has 2 ticks in it left, I think. I'm worried about just losing both Pokemon here, so I kind of want to force the Protect out of Tyranitar. Okay, they don't Protect. That's really big, I think. We should just KO them here. Then it's a 2v1. Nice. This was really scary, though. I mean, it's mainly just not having the best matchup into Tyranitar, right? Because what were my options here? Murkrow, Hydreigon, Armarouge, Indeedee, Maushold, and Meowscarada. My opponent did a great job KOing Meowscarada early. Okay, Last Respects goes into that, but now I get Armarouge in. But Houndstone maybe still just outspeeds me? I don't know how much speed investment they have on that side. 57 down to 47. Taking Salt Cure as well. 27. Man, what a battle here. Yeah, actually, this thing might still just beat me with Last Respects, right? There's 2 turns of Sandstorm. You should just Last Respect Armarouge right now. I'll Feign from Sandstorm and Salt Cure, right? Oh boy. Oh boy. Unless Foul Play just one-shots, which I wouldn't expect. So my other out is a double Protect. Or I'm just actually still faster, which I would not expect here. Alright, I'm gonna Foul Play Expanding Force. Yep, they are faster. Oh. Armarouge faints. I don't think Foul Play KOs here, but it does. Okay. I was curious about the damage calc there. That was a crazy game. I mean, there's no way I should ever expect Armarouge to... Oh, but, like, I could lose the game if they had just targeted Murkrow, so I think it's fine to attack there. I just wasn't sure whether or not Murkrow could get the one-hit knockout there. It's just, like, I don't normally expect Murkrow to be able to pick up one-hit KOs. But, of course, that's into something that probably was very offensive, had no bulk. We had the same type of attack bonus and the attack stat on the opposing side's obviously fairly high as well, but that was a fairly crazy battle. Yeah, I think Tyranitar honestly just looked really good in that game. And the main thing is, like, we have 2 super effective attacks into it, right? But it, like, Tyranitar is really good into the Armarouge, the Armarouge, the Indeedee, and the Meowscarada, and Murkrow, honestly. So, right, it's like, my best attack was a, Terra Flash Cannon into it. And I think the way they handled Meowscarada early game was really smart. And if, like, Fergaraf actually had, like, a Protect on turn 1, I think that this game would have been a win for my opponent as well. So I'm curious if it had Protect. Like, sometimes you'll see, like, Trick Room, Imprison, and Hyper Voice, Psychic type attack. You can drop one of the offensive attacks for Protect or Imprison for Protect, for example. But, yeah. Ultimately, though, I feel like we got to feature all the different components of this team, which I'm happy about. Meowscarada, I didn't click Trick Room, but we had a good game with the Armarouge Indeedee combination. We had a good game with the Maushold, and then Hydreigon was very critical in beating the Tyranitar in this one. So hopefully it's been able to show you how this team was able to win a regional championship. And yeah, it just has a lot of early strength, but I actually think we ran into some really cool teams throughout this episode that showed me, like, how you can potentially counter some of the common strategies right now, whether it be, I mean, the Indeedee Drifloon combination was awesome, but Tyranitar felt really good in this game in particular, for example. It's just interesting to see how people are approaching countering, Maushold in particular, because I wanted to, feature Maushold as much as I could, and we featured it already before, but it actually really struggled past the first game because all of the teams just had a lot of good anti-Maushold, whether it be ghost types, for example, or just things that resisted it. So, yeah. Anyway, though, that's going to be it for this one. So thank you so much, as always, for watching. My name is Aaron CybertronVGC. If you enjoyed, please show your support by leaving a like in the video. It really mean a lot, and I'll see you all next time. All right, peace.